Job advisors will be put into some surgeries as part of an effort to get the 300,000 sick or disabled people who are not working back into work by 2030. And the government says putting advisors in healthcare teams makes sure that job support is treated as part of your all-round care. With around 2.8 million people out of work due to long-term sickness, do you think this really is the solution that we're looking for to get more people back into work? And if somebody cornered you at your GP surgery and said, now what about work? You're not working. What kind of a job could we help you back into? How would you feel about that? Would you welcome that, or would you find it somehow kind of intrusive? I don't know. Do get your calls coming in because we'd really love to hear from you on that one. We'll start with you, Toby. It's so nice to see you. Does this strike you as a good idea?
I don't know, although they could turn it around. They could put doctors into job centres, couldn't they? They could actually switch that. But I feel that if people go to if people go along to the surgery and they need to go and see the doctor, that's what they're going there for. Mm-hmm. And it might have been quite an effort for them to get to the surgery. So to then be sort of cornered and to be almost cajoled into, let's talk about your job while you're here, when you might be nervous enough about your health, whatever you're going in for. As you quite rightly say, I'm not sure I think that's a bit too much pressure. It's when there's a time and a place to probably talk to someone about your job. And I'm not sure it's when you're feeling pretty bad and you're going along to see the doctor.
So you might think it might be a sort of overload, and also you might feel a bit collared and a bit cornered.
It's a little bit overload, and I don't know about your doctor's surgery, but mine is quite small. So where are they actually planning on logistically putting these job advisors? There aren't any spare rooms in the...
Porta cabin in the car
well, it may well be that,
something.
But that's not exactly conducive to helping somebody with a job, is it? And I think it just let people go in there and get themselves better.
I wondered, Carrie, what you think, because I suppose one of the practical elements of this is people who are disabled or sick or off work will at some point, when they can get an appointment, go to the doctor. So you will find them there. They won't have to make a trek specially to go there. They will be there. And maybe if they're kindly spoken to and it's a warm discussion.
There's so many advantages to this.
Oh, you do? You like it?
I really like this idea. I think there's an assumption that people that are out of work don't want to work. And I think that's not true. Many of the disabled people I know are desperate to work, but don't get the jobs. We also know of the power of social prescribing. That has been such a great thing to do. Rather than sending people away with pills, send them on a 6-week art course, you start to see a change in the depression. So I think that, and also, job centres are so depressing. The idea that you could meet with someone in the doctor's surgery...
What, surgeries aren't?
Well, yeah,
I don't
not
find
in the
them
same
completely
way.
sort of like...
I think that there's a sense of failure in those job centres that right. I don't feel that that's held in doctor's surgeries. If it's something that people have the option to do, I think that's the thing. It's not to be forced to do it, but maybe feeling purposeful is part of feeling healthy. So I think that feels like a natural thing to have them there.
What do you think, Cristo? Does that strike you as a sort of inventive way of saying, well, they will be at the doctor's anyway, they will be here already, they don't have to get on a bus or make their way there, and while they're here, we'll have a chat with them about the sort of job that they could maybe do?
I see the logic. I do see the logic of it. I mean, I've absolutely no doubt whatsoever that if the government are involved, they'll screw it up somehow, and it'll probably be executed in the most ridiculous way. My worry is, though, firstly, do GP surgeries have enough to deal with? Mine is chaos. Trying to get an appointment is absolute chaos. I don't want to be ringing up first thing in the morning about my nasty rash and end up being CEO of Microsoft by the end of the call as well, which, you never know, that might end up happening. So there's that issue about the chaos of it all. But secondly, as well, is it going to just pile way more pressure onto GPs as well, who have like minutes for each appointment? They don't have a lot of time in the surgeries. They try and get you in, they try and get you out. And the point that you made about, if you're there and you're feeling dreadful and you're ill and you're actually there for a reason, not just a checkup, well, the last thing you're going to want to talk about are career options. So I see the logic, but I think it's got to be executed really well for it to work.
With sort of delicacy, I suppose, and gently, do you think?
I think there will be people that have disability benefit that will not trust this at all.
Why? What will they think?
I think that they will think any information I share, because when you go for a job, you want to be showing yourself at your best, knowing that actually sometimes life is really difficult. And when you are being really truthful with your disability benefit, which is, I can't do this and I can't do that, I think there's a disconnect there that could, I think that to increase trust would be very difficult.
Really interesting. So it actually could end up being a disadvantage to getting a job because there'll be too much information about their health condition that ends up getting passed on to an employer. I hadn't.
Isn't there a bit of a conflict as well? Because surely some people, in terms of the doctors are there and they would have potentially prescribed somebody some treatment or some medicine and said, you can't go to work. And then at the same time, you've got a guy in there trying to get that person to go to work. So the doctor's saying, well, hang on, what are you doing in my surgery telling this person they need to go to work? I've just told them they're too sick to go to work. So I don't know whether there's some kind of slight dilemma there and a conflict of interest with those two things going on. I'm not sure that
I'm assuming there'll be some kind of link up so that the doctor will say, well, you've been off work for X amount of time.
I don't know how that...
Could we ease you back in? Is there something you feel you could do? And then you pass this patient to the job advisor.
No
let's go to the phones, because let's have a chat about this with Judy in Gloucestershire. Judy, how do you feel? Do you think this is a wise way of using the fact that people are at the doctor to try to solve the problem with unemployment?
Absolutely ridiculous.
Oh.
It'll be good for the doctors, because I think if there's a job advisor in there, the youngsters will stay away from the surgery, as they don't want to do without their benefits.
Really, I wonder whether it's mainly youngsters we're talking about here. I think we're talking about people of all sorts of different ages, Judy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's several different arguments and everything, but I think the youngsters don't want to work today. They want to claim benefits.
That's not true. I look at my 19-year-old autistic child sending out letters to try and get a job, and being autistic, they've only got probably less than 20% chance of getting that job. I think they would absolutely love the idea of being able to sit with someone who could open up a road for them, that could open the door for them.
But I think there may well be a wider debate on benefits and how much, how much money is pumped into them. Totally get your point, totally right. But I think certainly maybe this opens up on a much broader debate, isn't it? And it is about benefits, and it's about how much are they disincentivizing people to get out, backsides and go to work. But some people can't.
But I suppose if Judy's right, our lovely caller, and this would put people off going to the doctor because they think they're going into the doctor with a bad shoulder, a bad knee, or whatever it is, and they're going to be confronted by a job advisor saying, "Now, what job could you do now? How about going to work in a sandwich shop down the road?" And they're thinking, "Well, hang on, wait a minute, I've got a bad knee, I've got a bad shoulder." They might not come at all. I mean, maybe Judy's got actually an excellent and valid point that it would put people off, Cristo, going at all.
Yeah, and I think that the issue is that we do have a crisis at the moment with the number of people who are signed off work, whose potential is not being fulfilled. And I think it's about the balance of trying to get them in work, and whether GP surgeries, as with all the points that Judy made, is the right place to try and do that. Why does this help need to be there specifically?
Well, it can be online, can't it? Why can't it just be at home? Say somebody have to go, they can. That's where you could have an interaction with some kind of job advisor. You don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm not into this.
You think it just feels too forceful?
Surgeries are surgeries.
Right, OK, let's talk to David in Caerphilly, see what he thinks. David, does it feel to you as if people would feel strong-armed by this?
Oh, I think it would be terrible. I mean, the thing is that a lot of people are out of work and are feigning sick because the jobs on offer are not up to their standard. Now, if the people can guarantee a job that's worth doing for each individual, then it could well be a good thing. But I doubt, to get just anybody into any job is like a Nazi party, isn't it? They're just leaning on people to get them to get off the sick benefit and into a job that doesn't pay their expected wage for their qualifications.
Well, I think isn't one of the feelings about this, and I don't know whether Carrie will confirm this, but that working in general is good for you. It's kind of good for the spirits. It's good for your sense of self-worth.
It gives you a reason to get up in the morning. And I think it's obviously some people don't want to work. For some people, it's difficult to work because they wouldn't have as much money as they would have in their benefits. I think that is the wider argument. But there are so many people that I know that would love to be working. I think the hardest thing is that our high streets have shut, so all of those retail jobs have gone. There's only now 3 shops where there used to be 30. And I think it's a societal problem, isn't it?
We hear more and more, don't we, of AI being able to do the jobs that people would have done themselves.
Yeah.
Well, companies have been incentivised, haven't they, in the past to have to bring this sort of access to work for these entry-level jobs. But the reality is now that those incentives for companies have been cut, so they're far less likely to try and make room for people to come in entry-level jobs. And at the same time, the reality is AI are going to take those entry-level jobs, so there won't be those jobs for people to be.
I just feel like best case scenario, somebody goes to the doctor, there's a very nice employment advisor who says, I know you've got this and this complaint or ailment, but do you think you might like to do this, this and this? And they think, oh, actually, I would quite like to do that. And yes, I could do that. And then a job interview's organised, and then they get the job, and then they make friends, and then it's happily ever after is what I always want everything to be. I always hope things would be would just be lovely and everyone would benefit from it. Well, I know, I'd love life to be a fairy tale. Why don't we talk to Mike in Liverpool? Mike's a nurse. OK, Mike, come on, bring your professional expertise to this. What do you think as a nurse about this?
Well, of this discussion, I think it's wonderful that you're making so many assumptions on behalf of people who are physically ill. But one of the problems we have about this issue is job advisors are not occupational health nurses, because you're going to need a degree of insights into how you employ people. And then also you've got the issue about employers. Employers and HR will have to change their attitudes and their values about their workforce. And a lot of people are out of work, not because they want to be out of work because of, say, a stress or insecurity, but because of their employer's attitude. And when we talk about disability, and I've worked with disabled for all my working life for 45 years, the most disabled people in society that I find is the able-bodied, because they make assumptions on behalf of these people.
All right,
so
talk to me, Mike. As you're on the
I'm not
show,
making any assumptions.
Which is great.
I'm living with.
I'm glad you're here, Mike. What do you think are the assumptions most often made that you would like to dispel? What do people assume that is wrong or incorrect?
Well, I think one of the big assumptions that we've had, and I'm a children's nurse, so I work with the poorest people in society. It's as simple as that. But we've heard this already in relation to benefits. Is that they don't go to work because they get more money on benefits. If everyone got more money on benefits, we wouldn't have a national workforce. They're living in poverty and they're living in poor standards, and it's wrong to make that assumption about them. And then the other thing is about work is good for you. I mean, work can be very good if you've got a good employment. If you've got a good employment environment, work is good for you if you've got trade unions in place that can defend your rights. But on the whole, there is a danger that work actually makes you ill, because you can see that with the amount of poor confidence and poor mental health that our workforce have. And of course, not all work takes you out of poverty. And that's the big issue. We don't talk about poverty in relation to these issues.
All right, I'm so glad you called, and thank you very much indeed. Hope to hear from you again on another show. Let's talk to Paula in Durham. Hi, Paula. How about you? Job advisors at the GP surgery. How would you feel about that?
Well, just my experience of the job centre. My husband left school at 15. He worked till he was 59. He got made redundant. He only got voluntary redundancy that he had to wait 4 months for. Went to the job centre. He had to show them what jobs he'd applied for, and he basically would have taken anything. He just wanted a job. And the job person said to him, you only get the benefit for 6 months. And he said, what do I do after that? And he said, try and get yourself on the sick. And my husband couldn't believe that the person at the job centre was telling him that. And he said, I've never been on the sick in my life. I'm not going to start now. And thank God he did eventually get a job. He was in optics. He went to an optician's, asked if he could change his trade and could he just work there for nothing for a couple of weeks, to try and change the job that he did. Yeah. And after 3 weeks, they gave him a job and he's still there.
Gosh.
Amazing.
Wow. So what is the moral of that story, Toby?
Oh, well.
He's told if you don't get a job in 6 months, just go on the sick by the job centre.
Well, that's not exactly motivating, is it?
No, it's certainly not. And obviously, he's a
good
guy
employer,
that wouldn't dream of doing
good employer
that.
for letting them do the 2 weeks. I think that's trial stuff out. We need those apprenticeships. We need those spaces where employers are prepared to do that.
But as Mike said before as well, he came on the nurse. I mean, not all jobs are. You want to get up for at 6, 7 in the morning and go along to, that might not be very friendly in the workplace. There could be bullying, there could be all sorts of things where you don't want to be at work, and actually you come back from your job not feeling like it was good for my soul. Feel like I don't want to go to work tomorrow. So do you know what? I think I'd rather have a better option and I'll take benefits.
But I think where Mike was wrong is that I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing out the fact that actually some benefits give you more money than the median wage for the United Kingdom. That is a problem. That doesn't mean everyone's sat at home deciding, thinking of ways to try and be on benefits. Some people are, but a lot of people aren't. But it's still a fact to point out.
I just worry that you get to the GP because you're not feeling well. That's why you're there.
Yes.
And you might feel, if it isn't incredibly sensitively handled, incredibly waylaid. Hang on, wait, we'll just refer you to our job advisor. You're like, hang on, what?
And you may have been waiting for the doctor for half an hour anyway.
Quite.
Do you want to be there for an hour?
For several weeks to get the appointment.
Well, exactly.